Oh, my brother!
So being an expert in tag team wrestling, and that I am, 24 World Tag Team titles, the most decorated tag team in the history of this business, I want to give my picks on who I feel is the Mount Rushmore of tag team wrestling. Now remind you, I'm not going to pick anybody from my era, nor am I going to pick the Dudley boys. Although the Dudley boys, if there was a number 5 instead of 4, we would definitely be on that Mount Rushmore. But I'm not going to do that. These are the greatest tag teams in the history of this business. Here we go. The Road Warriors, LOD, Animal and Hawk. As far as I'm concerned, that tag team was a box office draw anywhere they went. They were hard-hitting, and when their music hit, you knew business was about to pick up. You also knew that somebody was going to get hurt, and that they did. We met them in the WWE when they made their 3rd return back, and they faced RVD and Kane. Me and Bubba were excited because we thought we were finally going to get the opportunity to get in the ring with the legendary Road Warriors. And unfortunately, that didn't happen because about a month or 2 months later, Hawk passed away. And we never got the opportunity to get in that ring. I never got the opportunity to get on Animal's shoulders and have Hawk come flying at me with a clothesline off the top of Animal's shoulders and get pinned 1, 2, 3. Because I know Bubba's ass wasn't getting up on Animal's shoulders, so therefore it probably would have had to be me. The Road Warriors, in my opinion, has to be number 1 on that list. No other tag team, and again, I'm not saying us, but no other tag team has ever come close to doing what they did and accomplished. So number 1 would be LOD, the Road Warriors. The British Bulldogs. You know, I grew up loving the British Bulldogs. Everything they did, they're fast-paced, they're moving around the ring, how Dynamite would give that snap suplex, Davey Boy would put you over his shoulder and do that running flip bump to take the guy and flip him over. I mean, it was, to me, the British Bulldogs growing up as a kid, they were bigger than life. Now again, not as big as the Road Warriors, but they were right up there. If you go back and look at all the entrances when they came out in WWE, they had a standing ovation every single time. That tag team was not only destined for greatness, but they were also legendary way before their time. I enjoyed watching them tremendously. There was never a bad match that I saw that the British Bulldogs had. Loved the WrestleMania match with them when they won at WrestleMania 2 against Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine. The bump that the Dynamite Kid took from the top rope to the floor when Davey Boy Smith took Valentine and rammed him into Dynamite's head, as far as I'm concerned, that was probably one of the greatest finishes that I had ever seen, especially during that time.
All right, Devon, it's time to do this Turtle Beach commercial. Devon, can you hear me, man? Devon, get the tables!
What? I'm sorry, man. I'm into these headphones, these Turtle Beach headphones. They are amazing. Sorry about that, man. Did you say something about tables? Hey, everybody. This video is sponsored by Turtle Beach. Sometimes I just want quiet time. These headphones right here are extremely special to me because as far as I'm concerned, Turtle Beach, there's no other headphones like them. So if you want some peace and quiet, these are the headphones to use. These headphones can cancel out anything in terms of kids nagging, your significant other nagging, people outside nagging. These are the perfect headphones for that. So what I have here right now is Turtle Beach Stealth 700 headsets. So these headphones right here have an incredible battery life of 80 hours. That's 80 hours without ever having to charge it. For a limited time only, get 10% off your entire order by using code DEVON at turtlebeach.com. Level up your game with 10% off at turtlebeach.com and use promo code DEVON. So Harry, can I get back to playing video games now?
Yeah, man, we got it.
All right, testify. The Hart Foundation. The Hart Foundation was another tag team that I loved and admired growing up. In my opinion, Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart was a tag team for that time that could do no wrong in my eyes and many people's eyes. With Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South, in their corner causing mayhem, to me, that was classic storytelling, and I loved every bit of it. And Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret Hart really did a great job in telling that story. Not to mention just the way Bret Hart would take some of these bumps in the ring, like you would throw him into the turnbuckle and he would take it face first and just snap his head into that turnbuckle and fall back. I mean, I thought that was great. Or the way when they faced the British Bulldogs, how Dynamite or Davey Boy would take Bret's hair and wrap it into his fingers, pick him up and snap him right back down to the canvas. To me, that was impressive. That was like, oh my God. To me as a kid, I fell in love with it and loved it. That's why those two tag teams are on my Mount Rushmore. Not to mention just the way their charisma and everything, they basically was able to really exist as a cohesive unit. And they did very well playing off each other. Bret Hart being the technician of it, and of course, Jim the Anvil Neidhart being a powerhouse. They were made for tag team wrestling, which is why I'm so happy to see both of them go into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame, that is. And again, with so much history behind them, you can't deny that the Hart Foundation could not be on your Mount Rushmore. As far as I'm concerned, they are and they always will be. One of the matches that stand out to me was Saturday night's main event. It was the Hart Foundation and a 2 out of 3 falls match. To me, I can watch that over and over again and be amazed at some of the things that they did and the storytelling that they did. With the whole thing with Danny Davis, the crooked referee that was in their corner, and, you know, Jimmy Hart being in their corner as well in terms of the Hart Foundation, and pretty much the British Bulldogs having to fight them on their own and pretty much try to survive. It was almost like having 4 against 2. But long and behold, the British Bulldogs had Matilda, which went after Jimmy Hart every single time. And how Matilda tore that megaphone up was great. I loved it. As a kid, I laughed and popped huge when I saw that.
In the ring now, Jimmy Hart along with the Hart. Look out! Here she comes! She charges! Matilda going after Jimmy Hart! That's horrible! She's got him! Jimmy Hart outside!
But that Saturday night's main event really stood out to me. And to this day, I watch it as if I'm a little kid again, being excited. And even though I know the outcome and I've seen the match a dozen times, it still does something to me inside. So I remember the first time I met Jim the Anvil Neidhart, I was on an independent show in New Rochelle, New York. It was kind of like my 3rd or 4th match ever in the wrestling business. I remember seeing him warming up in a room. So my dumb ass go in there and I figured I would warm up with him. And as I'm warming up, I didn't know what else to say. I was in awe. I was like a mark, true mark. And finally I just went, say something, Devon, say something. I was like, hey Jim, are you going back to Vince anytime soon? He looked at me, he just went, and turned away and went to working out. Something told me at that point, leave that man alone, because if not, he's going to kill you. So I left him alone. I didn't say anything else. I remember telling Natty about that, Natalia, and she just laughed. I was like, Natty, I was such a mark. I was such a fan of your father's that I embarrassed myself, and I never got the opportunity to ask him if he remembered that story. You know, sometimes you just gotta just look at the individual that you see on TV and just don't bother him, leave him alone, especially when you know he can kill you with his bare hands. But again, me and Natalia laughed about that when I told her that story, and I remember telling her right before he passed away, I said, please tell your father that I was a huge fan of his and I have so much respect for what him and Bret did. I met Bret at an independent show as well. I didn't go and mark out like I did with Jim, not because I liked Jim better, was because I was older and I had already been in the business and I knew not to do that. So I just remember meeting Bret and going, hey Bret, how you doing? Devon Dudley from the Dudley Boys. He goes, I know who you are. He was like, how you doing, man? He goes, I loved watching you and Bubba. I loved your work. For Bret to say that to me, you couldn't tell me nothing at that point. As far as I was concerned, I was on cloud 9. I enjoyed it to the fullest and kept it. I went home, called my sons, called my wife. I said, listen, you'll never guess what Bret just said to me. So again, they're definitely on my Mount Rushmore. I'd like to thank them for everything and all their contributions and what they did for this business. So my next tag team and final tag team on my Mount Rushmore of tag teams is going to be Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Part of the legendary team, the Four Horsemen, those two were one of the greatest, if not greatest, of their era during that time. So many things that we've learned from Tully and Arn that people do to this day. The knowledge that Arn Anderson has is incredible. I got to work with Arn in the WWE as a producer and learned so much from him. He basically gave us an insight on so many different things that we could do better in the ring as a tag team than him and Tully did. And basically the psychology, how all of that worked, what they did back then, I mean, it was incredible. The sea of knowledge that Arn had. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Arn Anderson and for his help in helping me to become the producer that I am. Arn took me under his wing and basically guided me as much as he could until the next person took me under their wing to guide me as a producer. But Arn had so much knowledge, and if you are a young wrestler, if you are someone trying to break into the business and you meet Arn Anderson, please pick his brain, because I guarantee you will learn so much from that man. And what he's done is incredible, him and Tully. Without Tully and Arn, there is no Horseman. Loved everything they did. Loved how they would have the people eating out of the palm of their hands. Whether you hate them or you love them, they were able to pretty much dangle whatever they wanted to dangle in front of you and make you cheer or make you boo. So my hat goes off to every single one of those guys that made my childhood fun and enjoyable. Thank you so much, because again, you have no idea what you four teams have done for me growing up and how you have inspired me to be who I am today as a tag team wrestler. Now, some people will say, Devon, you're not going to put the Dudley Boys in that same bracket? You preach about it all the time, that you're the most decorated tag team in the history of this business, winning more titles than any other tag team in the history of this business. Yes, that's true. But I don't feel fit to put ourselves in that category with those guys if we've never, ever gotten in the ring with them. But I will say this, if you had 5 to pick from instead of 4, we would definitely be number 5. And that means bigger than you, Booker. And you know I had to say this again, I got my own YouTube channel, so I can say whatever I want, damn it. And I won't have to hear your mouth. I better be cool, because some people think that me and Booker have real heat and we don't. I love that man to death. But he's always teasing me about how ECW had regional titles and we're not really, those titles were fake and it wasn't like him and his brother. Look, me and Bubba called you and Stevie out so many times and neither one of you went to the challenge. So again, don't go there, Book. I love you to death, and you know I do. And we always get on each other for this, but we are number 5. I can guarantee you in everybody's book. We're better than the Harlem Heat, and we would have beaten the Harlem Heat if we had the opportunity to be in the ring with you guys.
Tell me, he didn't just say that.
No, but I mean, in all seriousness, so many tag teams should have made the list of the Mount Rushmore, but you can only pick 4. Harlem Heat is definitely one. The Hardys, Edge and Christian. I mean, the list goes on and on with so many tag teams that could be in that same Mount Rushmore. But again, you could only pick 4. And I'm only picking people that I knew growing up watching and how amazed I was with them. Those are the ones I'm going to pick, and those are the ones I'm going to be on my Mount Rushmore. The most successful tag teams of their era. And every single tag team that I've mentioned was successful and did what they were supposed to do in that aspect. So again, guys, thank you so much for all your contributions, all your hard work, your blood, sweat, and tears, and what you did for this business. And even the tag teams that were in our era, thank you so much for everything that you've done, because without you, the Dudley Boys wouldn't have been so successful. And that includes Edge and Christian, the Hardys, Too Cool. I mean, the list goes on and on. La Resistance. Thank you so much for making us so good. The Gangsters, can't forget those guys in ECW. The Eliminators, who we won our first tag team title against. So many tag teams during our era that should be listed up there. And again, if I've forgotten anybody, please Please forgive me. If you see me, you can ask me more. I'm sure I'd have more tag teams to fill that void. But again, thank you so much and really appreciate you guys. And hey guys, let me know in the comments below who are on your Mount Rushmore. Again, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And please get the word out there and let us get to 1 million followers before the end of the year. So without any further ado, again, I say this every video now. This goes out to my daughter. Oh, my daughter, testify. Take care, guys.